We're gonna make it look fly with some DIY. We're gonna make it look fly with some DIY. We're gonna make it look fly with some DIY. Uh-oh, thrift diving.
Hey, what's up? It's Serena and Pia from thriftdiving.com, which is a do-it-yourself blog, YouTube channel, and podcast that helps you decorate, improve, and maintain your home with paint, power tools, and thrift stores without sacrificing your budget, the environment, or style. Welcome to episode 148 of the Thrift Diving Podcast. I am so excited to be back with you. It has been a long time. I feel like I took a vacation and didn't tell you that I was taking a vacation. I'm sorry for that, but life got in the way. Life was lifing. And I feel like this is the episode that I needed in order to kind of come back and tell you what I've been going through, what sparked this message to you that I wanted to give today. Because if I'm going through this, you probably are too. And we're going to talk about today how social media is killing our creativity. I talked about this in my last episode. I may have just kind of alluded to the fact that I haven't been very creative lately, which is why you haven't been seeing new podcast episodes. You haven't been seeing new blog posts. You haven't been seeing, really, that's one of the main things that I have been going through is just not feeling very creative. And it's interesting because sometimes when you're going through something, the universe just throws out a little something to you that explains everything. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. But I wanted to just kind of share with you how this came to me, this poignant idea. You know, I was walking into my shed, excited to sip a pot of coffee. Yes, a pot. I drink a pot of coffee. Okay, I'm going to back that up. I drink a half a pot. And I recently changed to decaf, so it's not that bad. And so as I was making my coffee, I had this thought that was so poignant. It was so profound. Well, it felt profound to me. And I just had to start writing. And that's why I wrote the blog post, which you can find down in the show notes, called Social Media is Killing Our Creativity. So as I'm standing there about to get the filter, put it in the coffee pot, I realized that social media is just like fashion magazines, and it's killing our creativity and our confidence. Now, let me back up a moment and just kind of tell you what's been going on lately and why I feel this was such a poignant thought that I just had to share with you. Because you have no idea. The minute I got the idea, I was like, oh, I have to write about this. And I sat down and wrote for 2 hours, maybe. I was writing so much, I didn't even realize that my kids had left for school. It wasn't until I looked up, I was like, it's 10 o'clock. Oh, my youngest son, my 13-year-old leaves by 8 o'clock. I forgot to say goodbye to him. Not that he cares. He's 13. He does not need to say goodbye to his mother, but I like to say goodbye to my kids. And I got so deep into this blog post that I needed to get it out. And that's what got me back into the podcast. I was like, oh, I have a message to share. And that's why I haven't been keeping up with you, because I didn't have any messages to share. I didn't have anything that I felt strongly about that I just needed to talk to you about. And that's not how work is supposed to be, right? You're supposed to consistently show up. But anyway, I'm getting off point. Let me back up and just kind of tell you what's been going on. So in the recent episode, the one that I did prior to this one, I had confessed to you that I have not been feeling very creative. And that might not strike a chord in you, because if you enjoy crafting and creating, that might be something that you do leisurely, right? Like when you have time in between something, maybe with the holidays, you're going to do some projects you've been wanting to do, or it might just be something that you do on Saturday afternoons between kids and the daily grind of your life. But for me, it's become my source of income. If I'm not creating, I'm not earning. But see, it goes deeper than that though, because it's not just about earning. Creating is one of my 3 life's purpose. Years ago, when I was trying to figure out, how do I go from working outside of the home to becoming like a full-time blogger? How do I do that? What's my life purpose? And I remember I came up with 5 keywords. I don't remember what all 5 of them were, but 3 of them stuck: create, inspire, and teach. That is my life's purpose. And that is what I've been doing here at Thrift Diving. But I haven't been doing as much of those things lately. And it's been affecting me. At this time of year, there's bloggers and makers and all kinds of people who are counting down their top 10 projects or top 10 recipes. And here I am sitting here wondering, did I even do 10 projects this year? Did I even write 10 blog posts? Did I even do 3 projects this year? Either way, that's not been very creative. It's not been inspiring, and it definitely hasn't been educational. Now, I will back up and say, I will add this little caveat. I have been working on my Power Tools course. So you have been hearing from me lately. If you're on my email list, that is going to be coming soon. That is one thing that I've been directing my attention to. But if you know me personally, you will know that even that doesn't feel great because I've been moving so slow, right? I feel like I want to move with a faster pace of being able to just create, and I have not been able to. My poor YouTube channel, that has sat stagnant, collecting cobwebs, creeping along at the pace of like a tortoise. And you know how slow they can move, except for that video that if you've seen it online, the little turtle that was on the skateboard chasing the cat. Did you see that? I was like, wait a minute. That is amazing because usually when you see turtles, they're moving so slow, but this turtle somehow knows how to get on a skateboard, a little toy skateboard, and it's chasing this cat around the house. Anyway, side note. Anyway, my YouTube channel, the views had been so insignificant that potential sponsors told me, they were like, yeah, reach back out to us when your channel starts to grow. Or things like, no, we don't want to work with her because her views appear to be inconsistent. But little did they know, I've been in this game since 2012. Now, here's the thing. These were not companies that I really cared to work with in the first place. I didn't even really know about their product. I didn't really care about their product. But recently I signed up with a brand management company, and how it works is they actually will pitch you to brands in hopes of, them starting the conversation, and then they handle everything. They take 20%. So if they're able to get you a brand deal, great. Now, if you want to know more about how bloggers make their money, go down below to the show notes. I did do an episode on how to, how I took this thrift diving and made it a business. So you can learn more about how bloggers make money and stuff. But anyway, that is how I had started working with this brand management company. And, the sponsorships, I feel like the sponsorships for my blog had kind of just dried up, kind of like that pond in my neighborhood. Right here in Maryland, we've been having extreme drought conditions, and the pond, it's just like, it's at its all-time low. And anyway, I felt like I'd been kicked back to 2012 when this blog and my YouTube channel had started, when they were merely toddlers. And I was hoping that I would land my first brand deal. But back then I was told like, you're not quite ready. Your page views need to be a little bit more. And now here I am 12 years later, and I'm starting to feel and sound like a senior citizen blog. This blogging channel that's been well established. I got all this experience and tales, and I'll say, remember back when, we could post on social media and there was no algorithm. And now it feels like, okay, everybody's trying to beat this algorithm. You've got a lot of newer, flashier content that just draws all this attention and likes and shares. And I felt like thrift diving was dying a slow death right in front of my eyes, because what I was doing and how I was doing it, it just didn't seem to make a dent anymore. And it wasn't that I needed 10,000 likes. It wasn't that I needed to go viral, because for me, it wasn't so much about going viral. That didn't matter as much to me. But it felt like when I would pour my heart and soul into something, that I would only get, let's say, 10,000 views over 6 months. And it felt like rejection. I mean, I remember the day when something similar that I would post could get 10,000 views in the first couple days, or even better. And everybody that was on my subscriber list, my YouTube followers, they could see my enthusiasm for this project. And then they responded in kind. And then that spurred me along to create my next project. And then that would fuel the creativity. And so it was this wonderful cycle until it wasn't. And I can't say where the breakdown happened. It's sort of like, it's kind of like the unraveling, the slow unraveling of a marriage. And you look up and you realize it's been deteriorating for years. Or let's say you slip on your favorite pair of jeans from college, or like your pre-pregnancy years. Because believe me, if you are a woman listening to this, we all have that number in our mind. We all have that pair of jeans or that shirt, that thing that you've kept for years. And I guarantee, I know you have it because I have it. And that's how you kind of judge how well you're doing with your eating habits. And can you still fit those jeans? Well, I do have those jeans. And sometimes you pull them out and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I gain so much weight? You can't pinpoint one particular meal, or like the unraveling of a marriage. You can't pinpoint one particular argument. It just happens over time. And I feel like for me, it was a compilation of a lot of things, right? Not doing enough projects that sparked joy. Or maybe I was taking too long to do projects. Like when I did my friend's outdated bathroom back in the earlier part of this year, it took like 4 months. I'm being kind. I think it actually took longer when you add in all the editing and all that stuff that had to happen. It took longer. And then that resulted in me not posting enough. And then I'll admit, I think I told you this in my last episode, working alone, you feel lonely working by yourself. It's not like when you work in a space with other people and you're kind of gathering, whether you're gathering on Zoom or whether you're gathering at a holiday party, even though you all work from home, you kind of get together, like you feel like you're a part of something. And I felt like I would spend so much time of my day reaching out to friends for connection. And that resulted in me not getting enough done, right? And then there was issues at home. And then my kid going to college for the first time, like all of those things really affected my year. And they played a part in me dialing back on my output. So then when I was making my morning coffee, a thought just came to me so significantly. I was like, social media has been killing my creativity and confidence. It's just like fashion magazines. So, okay, while I don't think that social media may be the cause of why I've not been creating them as much, I do think it hasn't been part of the cure. So let me explain. So as I was standing there at the workbench, I'm making this morning coffee and knowing that like, I just have not been creating very much. That thought came to me. It was like social media is like staring at fashion magazines all day. So think about this. Okay, now you might not have read fashion magazines, but or you may be a guy listening to this. Maybe you didn't read fashion magazines, but maybe you read health magazines. Maybe you're a woman that read health magazines, women's health. But just bear with me as I explain this thought, because I think that it affects every single one of us that uses social media. Whether you read magazines growing up, I think we can all kind of agree that magazines impacted us, right? So for me, magazines were a huge part of my teen years. Like I loved Marie Claire, I loved teen magazines, and I would scour these pages looking at all these pretty girls, wishing that I was one of them. Because believe me, back then, oh my gosh, I wish I could show you a picture of what I looked like back then. I did not feel pretty. I was this 5'9", 5'10", I was thin as a rail. I mean, I had a little bit of shape to me, but I didn't feel like I was anything special. I didn't look like anything special. I didn't feel like anything special. If I even showed my children pictures of what I look like back then, they were like, oh, because I just looked crazy. And so I didn't feel pretty as these girls looking in these magazines. My body wasn't as good as them. My personality wasn't as sparkling. It didn't feel like it was. And so when I would read over like my teenage journals from that time, and I do have all of them, my biggest grievance, I wasn't writing about how I was ugly or felt, I was just writing about how I was bored. I wanted to have this amazing love life. I wanted boys to like me. I was too tall. I was too ungainly, unpolished, too tomboyish. And my self-esteem, it was shaky at best. But reading those magazines, it was not going to suddenly make me confident and beautiful and feminine and popular and attractive, all of those things. If anything, like I think those magazines only highlighted what I already didn't think I was, right? Now, I will tell you that there have been studies, it's been documented that women, and I'm sure this extends to girls, but women who read fashion magazines preferred to weigh less. They were less satisfied with their body. They were frustrated about their weight. They were preoccupied with this desire to be thin, and they were afraid of getting fat. And, women who was reading news magazines, it didn't affect them quite as much, right? Now, I know that this statement speaks to women, but I think that we can, like I said, rope in young girls. And if you were a young boy reading magazines, reading health magazines, you might have looked at these abs, these 6-pack abs, and you wanted to be like that. But here's the point that I'm trying to make. Knowing how detrimental staring at magazines were for us as young girls or young people, imagine staring at magazines for nearly 3 hours every day, because that's the average amount of time that people spend on social media per day, nearly 3 hours. I think for younger people, it was closer to 3 hours. For people, I think just in general, it's like maybe 2 hours and 23 minutes. But let's just say 2.5 to 3 hours. So when we read fashion magazines, right, as young girls, we're flipping through these magazines, maybe 1 or 2 hours per month, right? Maybe per magazine. And you didn't read that many. And I don't have an exact number of this, but there was a time and place for it, right? You weren't consumed with it all the time. When you were done with that magazine, you were just done until next month, and then you'd run to the mailbox the next month and you couldn't wait to see what was there in the mailbox. But now, though, every single day we're bombarded with images, fast-moving clips, this never-ending feed. Now, if you've ever tried to get to the end of your feed, you can't, right? So if you literally laid in your bed or sat in your chair at your desk and just continued to scroll for an entire day, you would never get to the end. There's always more that it's going to serve up. And what's that algorithm doing, right? So everybody at this point should know what an algorithm is. It's this artificial intelligence that knows exactly what it is that you want to see. And it serves up more of that. And it does it with an uncanny accuracy. I mean, even look at a picture of a cat. Look at a picture of a cat for more than 3 seconds, and suddenly what happens? Your feed is just consumed with like cats. Heaven forbid you happen to look at something like, I don't know, something that you're just like, oh my gosh, I do not want to see this in my feed. And that's what you're going to get, because it's going to serve you up more of that. And a lot of times what it starts sending you the messages, now some of it serves you up is things that you actually want to learn, right? Some of it can be very helpful. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But, if it's sending the same messages that magazines used to send us, what are we seeing? We're not pretty enough. We're not creative enough. We're not thin enough. We're not rich enough. We're not smart enough. Our house isn't big enough. Our marriage isn't loving enough. We are not enough. And that's the message that we are getting. But now it's not just our own thoughts that are thinking these things, right? We're not thinking these things from the algorithm alone. There's social proof. And here's what I mean. Stay with me here. So let's say somebody posts a picture of their living room. It's colorfully decorated. It's inviting. It looks amazing. It's everything that you've always wanted for your living room, down to the layout, the vaulted ceilings. Like it's amazing. It looks good. And that photo gets 10,000 likes. That's social proof that that's a beautiful room. Why? Because we all agree. I mean, it has 10,000 likes. And that's low. You've seen videos that pop up in your feed on Instagram or Facebook, and it's got like 1.8 million views and like 38,000 likes. That's social proof. That tells you that like, wow, this is funny. She's attractive. That's a beautiful house. Like all of those things tell us that that's what that is. So how does that exposure affect us and our views about who we are and where we live and what we have and what we don't have? And sometimes it's obvious, right? So immediately after looking at something on social media, I mean, you might look around your own room and be like, oh my gosh, I wish I had a house like that. Like, look at my room. I have like stuff sitting everywhere. Like this is not social media worthy, but that house looks good. But I think the subliminal messaging that it sends us is so much more impactful. And I don't think we're even aware, because then it's things like, my house is boring. I'm not creative enough to make that like she did. Or everyone else has such better ideas than me, or I'm not as charismatic as them, so I could never do that on camera. And those are the messages that we keep hearing because of all the social media that we're consuming for hours every day, every week. And the messaging goes on and on. And because we see how many views and likes something has, it sends us a message as social proof that reinforces that subliminal messaging, that subliminal messaging. And that embeds into our subconscious. Now, okay, I know that sounds like I'm beating up on social media. I do believe that there's a lot of good that comes out of social media, and I enjoy the connection that it has provided us. I mean, remember way back when the only thing you could do to look up classmates was classmates.com. Remember that? And this was when you had to pay some kind of subscription, some crazy amount, and you were hoping that you could find your classmates. Well, now you don't have to pay for that, right? So you are getting quote unquote free access to all these amazing opportunities to connect with your classmates and old coworkers and stuff. But, it's not free. They're using your data in order to provide ads to you. And so that's how social media is quote unquote free, because they are using all of your information and they're making money on those ads. But anyway, I think the connection that social media can enable, oh my gosh, when you find your tribe of people, it feels good. I mean, just imagine, think about the last video you saw on Instagram that was just so funny. And you can't wait to hear what other people think of it. So what do? You immediately go down to the comment section. And the way that the social media is set up is usually the best comments are the ones that are going to be kind of at the top, right? It's going to show you the best stuff. And you cannot believe how creative people are. I mean, not only has social media given us new things to laugh at and to bond together, but it's allowed us to discover new artists, people who were funny that otherwise they would have never gotten an option to even be on a comedy club stage. But now they've got social media and they're reaching people. So I think life is better with social media at our fingertips. And I think even for me, social media, and when I say social media, I mean YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, any other ones you may be on. Even the blog. I mean, the blog is not social media, but it's a way to reach people. And I think social media has allowed me, and it probably allows you to live out your life's purpose, right? You might be using social media to promote the things that you're doing. But for me, it's allowed me to create and inspire and teach. And I think I've probably inspired thousands, maybe millions of people to do projects around their home and to learn to use power tools, paint their old furniture, and make home affordable. So I'm thankful for this. And I've always tried to keep my content as down to earth as possible so that it never feels unreachable. So whenever you watch my videos and my blog posts and stuff, I'm always including missteps, the mistakes, vulnerabilities. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. But I did that. Guess how I fixed it? So I'm never going to show you perfection. And I'm never going to make you think that, oh, I'm more creative than you, because I run into mistakes too, and I'm not afraid to show that. And I hope that by sharing the real deal with you, that the messaging that I am sending is telling you, oh, DIY is totally doable, or I'm creative, just like Serena, so that you don't feel like, oh, that's just way over my headspace. I can't even imagine doing that project. I don't ever want you to feel like that. But unfortunately, I think most of the content online sends the opposite messages to us, even if we're not aware of it. And the fact that we can visibly see how many likes and shares it gets, called social proof, it only tells us that something is good enough. And, so think about this for a moment. Can you imagine that if fashion magazines polled its readers to rate a fashion model's beauty? How insane would that be, right? For us to be able to give a thumbs up to certain outfits or certain people and thumbs down, or to even make comments like, oh, she's not very attractive, or, oh, he should not be on the cover of that magazine. What if we could have never have imagined that, but just imagine if we had that. Seems crazy, right? So with this social proof, we can visibly see that people like something, and we know that, oh, that's pretty, that's creative, that's smart and funny and popular. So then it sends us the message, oh, I'm not that pretty. I'm not that creative. Look at all those people that think that person is funny. I'm not funny like that. And so if social media is sending these negative subliminal messages to our brains, which honestly, I think it causes anxiety, even if you're not aware of it. And if they're sending us all these messages, just like fashion magazines did back then, why are we spending nearly 3 hours every day subjecting ourselves to it? Why? Why are we doing that? But then here's another side that people don't consider. And some people may agree with me here, but to even admit that these images and videos on social media are negatively impacting us, I feel like it sends the message that you're a weak person, right? Think about it for a second. Now, you may not feel like a weak person, but like if someone says, gosh, when I look at social media and I see these pretty girls, these Instagram models, I don't feel as pretty. What are people going to do? Oh, you shouldn't feel that way. No, and then you start thinking, oh, that person has low self-esteem. Oh, they're just a weak person. But I don't think it should be that way. I think, a lot of these things are subliminal and we don't even realize. So because only sometimes people feel, well, because only a weak person would allow an image or video to make them feel bad about themselves. I don't think we should feel that way. I think we're all human and we all are subjected to these subliminal messages. And I feel like I've always known that social media was killing my creativity and my confidence, but it wasn't until that morning that the thought struck me so profoundly that social media is like reading fashion magazines. And if magazines were so detrimental to me as a young teen on my self-confidence and my self-worth, isn't social media doing the same? I mean, how ludicrous would it be for us to read magazines for over 17 hours a week? I mean, do the math, right? 17 hours a week, bombarding ourselves with images and articles telling us how we should look and dress and how we should decorate our homes. Why would we spend over 17 hours a week allowing some algorithm to push images and videos to us, telling us what's popular, what's creative, what's socially pleasing and acceptable? I can't do that. And neither should you. Worrying about how we measure up against this social media ruler of likes and views causes anxiety. And we're learning that anxiety kills creativity. In fact, let me tell you, there is a podcast that I like to listen to. It's called Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. It's the #1 podcast in the UK, and it's very, very popular over here in the US as well. Probably many, many, many countries. And he has on a guest, and I think the episode just dropped today or yesterday at the time of this recording, Martha Beck. Do you remember who she is? Remember in Oprah's magazine, if you read the Oprah magazine, Martha Beck would always do an article. I think she's a life coach and she's got a new book coming out. I didn't even know that she had a new book coming out until I researched something that she said in that episode. And I will leave a link down below if you want to listen to it. She said, anxiety, oh my God, it was so poignant because I'm listening to it this morning. I was like, oh, I got to stop and rewind that. What? She said, anxiety cuts out creativity. And one of the ways that you can cut out anxiety is by focusing on your creativity. I was like, what? Oh my gosh, this is like the exact thing that I've been trying to say in this blog post, which she gave me the words. Now, again, her book comes out, I think January 7th is what I researched. I will leave a link down below if you want to pre-order it. I'm going to get that book. But when she said that on the podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, that is right. When you are feeling anxious, you can't be creative. And if you go back to listen to my previous episode, when I talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's something that in psychology, they talk about, and I won't go all into it. You can go back and listen to that episode. But the basic idea is that you have to be safe. You have to be comfortable and secure to know that your health, your body is safe. And it's like a triangle, right? So you have to know that your basic needs are going to be met before you can even get to the higher level of creativity. And when she said it so succinctly, she's like, anxiety just cuts out creativity or cuts down creativity. And I was like, whoa. And then she said, well, the way that you kill your anxiety is you got to focus on creativity again because it's different parts of the brain. And so when she said that, I was like, yes, oh my gosh, I knew it. So now she's not specifically talking about social media, but she is talking about creativity and anxiety. And what causes anxiety? Social media. If you have ever taken a break from social media, you know your anxiety levels go down, way down, because you are not bombarded by all this stuff online you're not getting the subliminal messages. You're not feeling like you're not measuring up. You're not feeling like you're missing out because, you saw your three best friends doing something together and you weren't included. Like you're not even privy to all of that. You've got your blinders on and you're not even thinking about it. And when you do that, you feel so good. I've recently decided that I was not going on social media very much. I don't call it a social media diet. I'm not detoxing or anything like that. But I just decided I'm going to be mindful of when I feel the need to want to go and try to scroll, and then I instantly get out of it. So we'll talk a little bit about some things you can do to, if you want to kind of, kill the spiral. I think it's an anxiety spiral is what she calls it. And then you have to like focus on the creativity spiral. But, we'll talk about how to maybe get away from social media a little bit and get back into creating. Maybe that's going to be on another episode. Maybe I need to read the book first. But anyway, what struck me so much is that social media causes this anxiety, and anxiety is going to kill your creativity. And so, when I heard that this morning on the podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm on to something here. So if you have been feeling this way, if you have been kind of beating yourself up because you're not as creative, you have all these projects and things you want to do, but you're not getting them done, it's because you've got anxiety. And so hopefully by reading this book, which I wish I had all the answers for you in this episode, which I don't, but I hoped I hope by reading this book, maybe I'll find some strategies on how to, kill the anxiety with the creativity. But anyway, I'm not afraid to admit that these things have been impacting me. And I'm just curious about whether they've been impacting you. How has your 2024 been going? Do you feel happy over the amount that you've been creating? Or are you also feeling like me, just kind of disappointed that you haven't been embracing your creativity as much as you've wanted to? I'm not afraid to admit that I have been taking hits. My creativity has been taking hits. And I do believe, in my opinion, it's the anxiety of the things that have been going on in my life. But I also think that when I focus on what everybody else is doing, it causes me to kind of shut down a little bit. I start second guessing myself. So I miss the days when I was excited to just do a project because, or I'd be like, oh my God, this is such a great piece of furniture. I miss those days when, paying my mortgage wasn't tied to how many people liked my projects. I miss the days when people gathered online and simply enjoyed connecting without an algorithm being the freaking gatekeeper on who you engaged with. Because then you could see everybody that you wanted to follow, right? Instead of them pushing out like, well, check out this viral video, Serena. Oh, did you forget about this viral video? You got to see this viral video. And I miss the days when I could just introduce myself at the beginning of videos. Hey guys, what's up? Serena here at thriftdiving.com. That's how I would start my videos. And I felt like I was old friends with the people who were coming back to watch. But instead now we're being told, hey, you know what? The first 3 seconds of that video, you got to have a hook, because if you don't, you're not going to get people to stop and watch. I don't want to do that. Again, I feel like the senior citizen missing the old days, but I miss the days when people would just stop and watch because they couldn't wait to watch to see what I was working on that day, because I was excited about it and you guys got excited about it. So now I just sound like a senior citizen blogger. In fact, I think in the blogging community, we do have a term for us. We kind of call ourselves like OG bloggers. Original gangster is really what it's called. But like, we're the OG bloggers. And I wonder where they are sometimes, right? Like the ones that I started with back in 2012. We would all get together at the Haven Conference, which is this annual DIY blogging conference in Atlanta. And I just wonder what happened to them, because we would all go to these conferences and try to figure out, how do we do this blogging thing? Like how are you writing your blog posts? Are you doing video? Wow, video is so important. Now it's like everybody has to do video. But I wonder where they are now and what their thoughts are on blogging and content creating as it exists now. So you might be wondering, okay, Serena, well, how does this affect me? What's the conclusion to this blog post, this podcast? Where are you going from here? Well, those are great questions. So as I wrap this up, I feel like this podcast, the blog post that I wrote, I feel like I'm trying to take it back to the beginning days of blogging, where I would share ideas and thoughts and observations. And that's how I originally started. In fact, I started back at the age of 5. I was journaling at the age of 5 before I even knew how to write. I had these notebooks that I would take pencils and pens, and I would just write these squiggly. This was before I didn't even know how to write cursive writing at that time, right? But I would make these little squiggly lines on the pages in the notebooks as if I was writing cursive, and I would just do it for pages and pages. So I was expressing my ideas before I even knew how to write. And I want to express my ideas again without worrying about how many likes I'm going to get, how many comments or shares. I want to continue to be authentically Serena. I want to scrap that whole thing of writing for Google, because if you don't write for Google, you're never going to be discovered in search. Forget that. I want to write for me. I want to write for you. I want to do projects for us and post tutorials for you, for me, that we really are excited about, that we're learning. And if a brand decides to come along and they want to be on that journey with me, great. But if they don't, and they say, well, you need to grow your YouTube, then don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Because in this world of likes and shares and comments, as great as social media can be, I feel like we're losing this cozy feeling of connection. I feel like we're nostalgic for genuine conversation, for genuine projects where people are just doing projects because they just want to do this project. They're not trying to peddle a brand or a product or something that is not authentic to them. I want to slow down and enjoy making content again, instead of feeling like I have to be this content machine to keep up. I want to fall back in love with thrift diving, which is who I am at my core, because I love thrift stores. I love paint. I love power tools. I love inspiring people. I love writing. Even just coming up with this blog post that goes with this podcast was amazing. My stress levels, I wear this performance band called Whoop, and my performance is, it's tracked daily. So part of that performance is how much you're working out, and how stressed you are, how much you're straining to do the things you're doing. And it's so funny because when I sat down to write this blog post, my stress levels were non-existent. I was in like Zen mode. And looking at that, seeing that on the app made me realize that this is what I am made for writing, for inspiring, for sharing ideas, and for connecting with you with my words. And I hope that you stay along for this journey, because I feel like I'm having to pivot a little bit, to figure out where I fit in with where everything else is, right? How do you continue to earn a living with your creativity, but not allowing anxiety to kill that creativity? And part of that anxiety is trying to keep up with the Joneses of social media. And I don't want to do that. I can't promise that, whatever I create is going to be worthy of 10,000 social shares. But for me, if it touches my heart and it makes you smile and it makes me feel connected to you, to this community, and if it inspires you, then it was worth it. So I want you to think about, what are some things that you can do in order to get your creativity back? If you're feeling this way, if you're feeling like, I am just done with social media, what are some things that you can do? Well, here's what I've been doing. I've been trying to, I can't quite remove the apps from my phone. I do have a friend she's going to be on this podcast very soon. She's also one of the OG bloggers. She started a blog at the same time I did years ago. And then she got tired of like the shucking and jiving that she had to do in order to kind of keep it going, to crank things out. So she took a hiatus, and then now she's just now coming back into it. And so she and I were, we spend a lot, her name is Nakia. We spend a lot of time sending audio messages back and forth to each other. And so one of the latest conversations was about this very topic. And I said, hey girl, I just wrote this blog post. I'm just so tired of feeling like I have to live up to this standard that's set by social media. It's killing my creativity. And she's like, girl, I wrote a blog post about this too. But hers isn't coming out until January 1st. So I'm going to have her on the podcast so that she and I can kind of hash it up and you'll be able to listen. But some of the things that she did was a little different than mine. She actually just went like completely radio silent on social media for 3 months. And things that she wanted to do, that she had been trying to do, that she had not had the bandwidth to do, was finally completed. She wanted to start her blog again. She was finally able to do that when she was just silent and she just didn't have all of that noise coming into her eyes and her ears. And so even though I like the idea of just getting rid of social media for 3 months, because it's part of what I do, I can't quite do that. But let me tell you, I don't have my apps in places that I can easily see. So, by habit, sometimes we just want to hit Instagram. We just want to go to Facebook and see what's going on. And then we've lost an hour or two of our day. So now I've put my apps in places where I can't reach them. So when I go to pick up my phone, if I need to send a message to someone, I'm going straight to that app. I'm not taking a detour over to Instagram and now it's an hour later. So that's one thing that you might be able to do. Another thing you can do is set timers on your phone. Now, I do have a Samsung. I know you can do this on your iPhone. Here's the little cheat. The little workaround is that, okay, you set it for 30 minutes, you set it for 20 minutes, and then that little timer pops up and says, hey, you got 5 minutes. And then you just sort of, oh, I'm going to extend it for another hour. Don't do that. I've done that, and then it just defeats the entire purpose. Try setting a timer, and then if you do that, that will help. Another thing is, too, if you don't want to go completely silent for a short period of time, then what you could do is try to delay the consumption of social media. So it's not the first thing that you grab when you wake up in the morning. You don't want that algorithm setting your day for you, where you're seeing upsetting news. You're seeing someone's gorgeous project or gorgeous house, and you're like, well, I can't do that. So maybe I'm not even going to work on that piece of furniture today. Again, remember, these are subliminal messages that you're getting. These are not necessarily conscious thoughts that you have, but it's affecting you. So delay getting on social media. Maybe do it at a time when you're not going to, you're not going to be starting your day with those subliminal messages. And I guess another thing that you can do is maybe unfollow some people that you don't want to follow anymore. If you're tired of looking at certain things, maybe there's some people that are spewing negativity, then don't follow those people. So maybe, teach the algorithm, hey, I want more positive stuff. And if you start clicking on more positive things, or, maybe instead of looking at everybody else's projects, maybe you start following some people that are more authentic, who say, hey, you know what? I just spilled this gallon of paint here in my she shed. Things go wrong, follow the right people, the people that are going to make you feel like, gosh, if Serena, if she can mess up, I can mess up too. And you don't feel quite as bad about what you see online. So those are just some strategies. I want to know from you, if you are feeling that your creativity has been impacted, if you didn't even realize this is why your creativity has been impacted, if you've not been putting out the amount of creative stuff that you've been wanting to do you feel like social media has impacted you? Or has maybe this episode made you think about that a little differently? And I almost wonder if we just put the blinders on, how much could we actually create? What could we actually do if we didn't compare ourselves or have an algorithm feeding us certain things? What could we actually complete? Now, I know that we can actually do some research and we can go to Pinterest and get ideas for things. But what if we just said, let me rely on my own creativity, even for just a week, and see what I can create? Give it a try and see. I already feel better. And here's the thing, Whoop, my performance tracker, these past 3 or 4 days that I have not been on social media, oh my gosh, I'm getting amazing sleep. I'm not scanning things before I go to bed. I'm not looking at it when I first wake up. And my stress levels, my anxiety levels have been way down. So I'm getting better sleep, and I am ready to tackle a project. Well, first of all, I'm still working on the Power Tools course. So by the way, if you want to sign up for that to be notified when it's ready, I've actually started filming. Can't believe it. I've started putting together some videos. It's a very early part, but probably in a few weeks or so, this should be ready. But go to thriftdiving.com/tools. You can find the link down below in the show notes. But let me know if you have been feeling this creativity slump and what you're going to do about it. And then let's talk about it. Send me an email, serena@thriftdiving.com, or you can hit me up. I'm still on Instagram. I still do go to check it. And if you're there, you can send me a message at Thrift Diving. I would love to hear some feedback from you. And I'm always available via email if you want to chat about anything that you've heard here. All right, that's what I got for you this week. I can't promise you that I'm going to show up routinely, but I'm going to do my best. I'm shutting everything out, and I want to show up and be here for you so that we can continue to connect and maybe spark each other to be more creative. And I can't wait to see what we create in 2025. I'll see you next episode.
Diving. Find it ugly, make it pretty. Paint power tools, alright. Saving money with those thrift store vibes. Yeah.